Hello everyone, I'm Chris from Rustic Rabbit. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're making a bacon bourbon loin, and we're using the smoker. Now if you're new to our channel, we help you raise your own meat, grow your own food, do all that in your backyard, and then we take you into the kitchen. We show you what to do with it, right? We develop some great recipes, and we demonstrate how to do these meals, and that's what we're doing here. Okay, so, we use butter, we use brown sugar, bacon, all different wonderful things for a lot of good flavors. But I gotta tell you, my favorite part of this recipe, the favorite ingredient,
Whiskey!
it's the whiskey. I just love when the boys help me out. So usually we cook with a fryer, right? It's about a 10-week-old rabbit. It's real tender meat. And you can do all kinds of different things with it. But with a larger rabbit, usually they call them roasters. Any kind of breeder that's like 10 pounds, 8 to 10 pounds, it's much, much bigger. It's tougher meat. So there's a lot more meat, but it's tougher, right? So most people would slow cook it. They'd had, put it into a stew, something like that. This is a great recipe where you can actually salvage that and take that loin, because it's a pretty big piece. You debone that loin, that saddle, and now you can actually, it's kind of like butterfly. You treat it like a pork loin. So if you end up wrapping it in bacon, all the fat from the bacon kind of protects it and keeps it from drying out in the smoke. So when you smoke it, it slow cooks like you need it to without drying out. It's a great way to use that piece of meat. Okay, like I mentioned, we're working with the saddle. So we've deboned it. You're going to see the main loins right there, and then the little flaps on the outside. That's kind of like the tenderloin / belly meat along the saddle. Once you get that butterfly and you open it up, you're going to be packing everything on the inside of it. So you just want to put like a generous bed of brown sugar, and then just kind of drizzle your favorite bourbon. You don't have to soak it. It's just enough to kind of get everything wet. And then after that, you don't need the most expensive Dijon. Like I said, this is out of a squeeze bottle. But get some Dijon mustard if you want to get the spicy, bold. You can do that. But I don't think it's necessary. There's enough flavors and taste coming from this arrangement that I think you don't want to do it overkill. So I just use regular Dijon, kind of spread it around with a spoon, kind of smear it around. You don't have to get crazy here, because again, this is just to kind of get the flavors on the inside. You're going to be making a glaze as well that we'll be basting everything with while it's cooking. So once you get everything there, fold it over. It kind of sandwiches it in there like an empanada. And then lay out some bacon. If you have artisan bacon, that works great, but you can just use standard regular bacon. You don't want like a turkey bacon, because that's too lean. The whole idea of this is you want the fat from the bacon to be rendering and kind of just melting over that loin, so that it kind of protects it from the dryness of a smoke as it cooks. So wrap everything in there. The fat from that bacon will really kind of help protect it and keep it moist. I've used twine, like cooking twine, and that works great, but it leaves the lines. And for the presentation, I really like the toothpicks on this one. You just can't forget to take them out when you're done. But yeah, if you do toothpicks, it sort of it disappears when you go to pull everything out, but it keeps everything in place while it's cooking. So go ahead and do that. Once everything's ready to go, it's all set. So you're ready to put it on the smoker. So, it's going to be really cumbersome to manage right now without it all falling apart. So I like to get a nice big set of tongs, slide it under there, and then just sort of kind of walk it out there on a plate. And then you can just use the tongs to kind of slide it off the plate right onto the grill. So, you don't need to get it real hot, but you don't want to cook it for 4 hours either. So I put it at 250, 240, 250, somewhere in there, and just let it cook. It usually takes about an hour to 2 hours at the most. While that's cooking, you can start off with making the glaze. So it's going to be the same ingredients. You're just going to use 3 tablespoons of all the things you just used, but add butter. So 3 tablespoons of butter, 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, 3 tablespoons of your bourbon, and then obviously 3 tablespoons of the Dijon as well. So once you get all that in there, cook it at a low to medium heat just to get it all to melt and to kind of mix together. You don't really need to be cooking anything. You're just trying to get it all together and get all those flavors to dissolve within each other, and then it'll cook down to kind of thicken up a bit. So put everything in there, stir it real good, because of all the sugar, it'll burn real quick, especially if you have it too hot. So you're gonna have to be really attentive. Stir it real good, and then at some point it'll do this. It'll start to kind of thicken up a little bit, and you'll know. You use it and pour it like that. It's gonna look like more of a syrup. It's gonna stick to the spoon, and then you're ready. So take it out there. Make sure you baste everything while it's cooking at least once, but usually twice while it's cooking. Once it's all done, bring it back in there, put it on your cutting board, take those toothpicks out. Don't forget to do that. And now you just got to cut it. Now, what I like to do is I kind of like to splay it out. I cut it all in kind of half-inch pieces, and then just kind of like splay it out long ways. You need a real sharp knife for this. If you have a serrated knife or one that's not sharp enough, it's going to move that bacon around since you took the toothpicks out, and it's going to sort of kind of deglove your loin. It's going to taste just great, but it's the presentation's going to be missing. You're going to kind of rob yourself of all that work that you just did to make it look good. So get a really sharp knife. Do your best to kind of keep the cuts about the same width as you go along. And once you get it all, it should look really nice. Your end pieces are going to be a little bit different, obviously, but you're going to have quite a few pieces. They're going to be really tender, great flavor, and it'll splay out like this. Because this is a kind of a southern style meal, I like to serve it with like a collard greens, some maybe garlic smashed potatoes, and just make sure you get a lot of glaze on the back end. All right, y'all, that's it. Hopefully you enjoy the meal as much as we do. This is one of my favorites. I usually make it with a pork loin. I actually borrowed it from Steve Rakeland. He's Project Smoke. You can Google that. He's the master. He's like the emerald of barbecue, or like Bob Ross of barbecue. He kind of looks like Bob Ross. Anyhow, love his stuff. It's a great recipe. Works awesome on this rabbit. If you have any questions or comments, leave it below. Don't forget to subscribe. If you have any friends, encourage them to subscribe. And like always, God bless.